Hello everyone, welcome back to Historian. Just so we know, I haven't abandoned you. I created like 3 videos this year and then just immediately scrapped them because I wasn't proud of them or that they didn't feel finished. There's gonna be one, hopefully soon, but I'm back with this, and again, something that I'll hopefully post by the end of this year. Gosh darn it. It took me literally all last year, and I'm very proud of it. It was just really busy. I'm really busy. I didn't even realize it, but this was a great year for horror until like 9 months in. Like, I didn't, part of that's my blind side of like actually working in the theater on the floor, but now I'm in marketing, so I'm like more looped in. The themes of this year: queer the better, being tricked into watching pregnancy horror like halfway through the movie. Holy shit, take a shot every time that happens. I probably shouldn't have said shit. It's a good like 10% of the list, so tread with caution. Serial killers, a good amount of like moving in with someone and oh shit, that's a bad situation. Another theme of this year would be the leftovers of vampires from last year. I think my non-favorite horror of the year, I'm like probably blanking on something else that I love, but for me, I think it's gonna be Challengers, which was like a really big surprise because I really don't care for Guadagnino's projects, nor tennis, nor like dramas typically, but I get a blast with that one. Reminder, I only watch movies if I actually think I'll like them or if they have promise, so if it's rated low, that's the movie's or my own problem. I'm not here to watch every Stranger's Chapter 1 and Night Swim there is out there. My 9 to 12 are interchangeable on the day, and my 1 to 3 are also rotating around each other. As always though, as above we must go so below, so for someone who's like a full-time student and works like a good amount of time, like I have 48 entries. I'm pretty proud of myself, and I know that there's going to be a recommendation here that you haven't heard of, so stay tuned. But right now, we've got a long way to go. So let's start with my biggest stinker, number 48. This year, I realized maybe y'all might want some context, so I included the included synopses. So if you're either not good with titles and watched the movies and couldn't remember what it was, or are wanting to know more about something before I spoil it or tell you my opinion on it, that's there too. Yeah, why would I make this video any shorter for myself? But again, without any further ado, welcome to my list of the best horror of 2024, starting at the bottom. Number 48, Time Cut. The plot follows Lucy, a teenage girl who accidentally travels back in time to 2003 and attempts to save her older sister from a masked killer. What if we did Totally Killer, but on a Netflix budget? No, you guys, I'm sorry. What the heck? What are we doing here? I watched this movie last year, and I didn't even enjoy it the first time. I don't know. Both really good, unique foreign horror, like, but these past years with the remake trends, like, America consistently has a copycat horror problem. Like, say what you want, I bet the former film was good. I didn't watch it, but Immaculate and The First Omen are just very similar movies, and I want more variety. This isn't as egregious as most American remakes of another country's movies are, but it's got the worst case of first draft syndrome. It barely commits to its kills or its saccharine tone. No spoilers, but gay marriage is legal. Spoiler warnings about history. Community does the joke better. The ADR is bad enough for me to notice. The funny part is I think we can just chalk it up to like a group fumble, because I'm not going to discount any of these like creators from future horror projects. Like, maybe I'll be hesitant to watch something from this director, but it was almost so bad that it like looped around in being completely inoffensive in its offensiveness. I fucking love slashers, you guys. I like how formulaic they are. That's comforting. I like heart with my story, but this felt hollow and unplanned. So yeah, this is just ridiculous. Stop feeding us this garbage. I am screaming literally at the same mask and everything. And of the trio of the recent like time shenanigans, like horror movies, like this is just, it's gotta be the worst. I don't want to waste any more time talking about this. Don't skip this movie. Don't watch it. Number 47, Night Shift. While working her first night shift at a remote hotel, a young woman begins to suspect that she is being followed by a dangerous character from her past. I'm not afraid to say it. I saw Lamorne Morris on the cover and I said say less. I'm down for him in horror. I love New Girl. It's a comfort show. Unfortunately, he was in like 5% of this movie. So the plot of this one was very meandering. It was essentially if you took Cuckoo and like took everything that was interesting about it out of it. Phoebe Tonkin is definitely trying to channel some like Jack Torrance in her performance, and it's just it's not working. But we never tried adding water, so maybe that would have done the trick. Nothing memorable happens here. I guess I'd be down to watch Madison Who and other projects, but honestly, I would just say this one is a big old skip and not really worth your time either. Number 46. This is Handling the Undead. 3 families are thrown into chaos when their deceased loved ones inexplicably return. This might be my animal of 2024. Just some vague metaphor, shadow-laden, artsy-fartsy bullshit. From the start, it reminded me of The Lodge and the killing of a sacred deer. Again, I'm here to yap about movies even I don't like, so speaking of, pretty sure there's an animal death in this movie. Yeah, there's a bunny rabbit scene. I skipped. It started screaming. I think you can skip when it starts screaming. You may think I find all dramas meandering, and sometimes I do. But if they all ended the way that Love Lies Bleeding did, maybe I'd enjoy them more. By the way, I don't know what genre that movie falls under. Whatever it is, I liked it mostly. Its depictions of using are left to be desired, but it's like a 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 stars for me. Unlike this film, Handling the Undead, let me be clear, I'm not abject to this plotline, nor do I think it's morally abominable. It's just pretty underwhelming. I'm sorry, but what in the bootleg Night of the Living Dead is this? Or maybe Backwoods? This one feels like a person made this. Does that make sense? Not some studio exec or higher up with a vision, just some art school graduate clambering their way through a movie. I don't want to start beef. I just think that there wasn't much of substance. Just a start to a conversation, if anything. This movie needed to be cut. This is not a music video. I will say the way that the undead act and move and squeal on a scale of dead to super dead is in the older man's plotline are just properly horrifying. That is horror. I will give them that. What would you do? Your dad dug up your dead 3-year-old son and has him in your living room? I guess I just don't understand what this is saying at the end of the day. Maybe I'm not patient enough or something, but even the film lets us know too that the dead should be laid to rest. So I'm I've also admittedly never had a partner or a child die though, so I can't relate on those fronts, so maybe I'd relate or think better of this movie in a different time. Not that I invite any more personal grief into my life. Or maybe this is just me wishing that, not every horror movie about grief is a slow burn or an artsy take on something instead of just focusing on the root of the scariness, the void that is left when someone leaves you. To me, this movie is scary because the dead have no agency. They only remember the faces of those they loved and how to return home. They're animalistic. Pet Cemetery, maybe more sympathetic zombies. Within the nature of their movie, I'm gonna get more personal as to another reason why this movie doesn't really work for me, even if it may be what it's warning us against. I don't really understand how this little Aslan town experiences grief and death, but I think each culture provides unique anxieties about dying. When I think of dying, first I think of being raised as a Christian person, the whole heaven or hell. Then I think I don't know if I believe in that, and I'm forced to heal either the part of me afraid of dying or the part of me afraid of what comes after dying, and often I chalk it up to I don't know, and I move on with it altogether. This movie gives you a lot of space to think about what you do in this situation because it's so slow. So if my grandma were to walk up and through the door, I'd be mortified first, but then really more concerned about what it meant for her than how she'd fit back into my life. Is she in pain? Is she at unrest? If there's something more beyond the pale, I know she'd be watching over me. Maybe I don't believe in a heaven, but if there's a good place, then you bet she's up there. Energy and remnants of spirits, to me, it's like a radio station. Sometimes she can tune into me, sometimes she's listening to another song. Some people are better at listening to the radio, and some people might just hear static. My grandma used to be a singer on the radio, so I really think that she'd enjoy that metaphor. But I'll never really know either way, because there's no way to go back to how things were. Nothing was the same again when my grandma died. There was no rewind. I never saw her body after she'd suffered through a disease for at least 6 miserable years because she was dolled up. And not in the way that she used to do her makeup. No disrespect to morticians, but they'll never know my grandma, how she used to do her makeup. They'll never know the fragmented memories I cling to, like her matching juicy purple jumpsuit, or how she'd apply her eyeshadow, looking good and then making breakfast for everyone and the pets all before some of us had even woken up. I know this movie and its actions would have felt nice to some, to see how my grandma kind of used to be, but I'd rather look at the pictures of the real her, just like I wouldn't integrate her zombie into my family in this universe. My grandma became a different person with Alzheimer's, if not a different person, then of a different mind. Dementia and the like are harrowing diseases and an uneasy pill to swallow, but ultimately undeniable. At this point, I don't think I fear death, and I fear pain or damnation or hell or heaven or whatever comes after even this. I am surrounded by death, just like I'm surrounded by love and fear and hope and all those things that you are too if you listen to my grandma's radio. It's how you respond to pain and death that keeps you going, or at least it is to me. This film farted around with an emotional idea, but I enjoy my takeaways and musings more than anything this movie provided. Sorry if this was nonsensical. These movie zombies don't make a lick of logical sense anyways. Proof that Sweden is not scary in and of itself. You have to work at it, you whiners who hate Midsommar. Leave No Me Quita Paz and dead rabbit shots out of your movie and the needless tinnitus. Just not for me. Just not for me. Number 45, stop motion. A talented stop-motion animator becomes increasingly obsessed by the grotesque world of her horrifying creations with deadly results. Just felt too tame for me in, like, a weird way, you know? The gore was good, the story was so flat, though. The acting from all the participants, for me, also fell quite flat. I thought I would enjoy this one more as the year went on, like, maybe I'd be proven wrong, and more people would laud it, and I'd acknowledge something about it that I was missing in the beginning, but nope. There's some more fun stop motion. I think it's stop motion, regardless it's practical. That is done much more successfully by my count later on in the list, so keep an eye out for me alluding to that. I craved more stop motion or general, like, art scenes and was barely satiated when it happened, so I was just daydreaming of Phil Tippett when it wasn't. The atmosphere did have a nice dreamlike tone, but it meant that I took everything with a grain of salt and didn't believe my main character whenever she was supposed to look ambiguous. Also, I don't like to harp on kid acting because they're kids, let's be real, but maybe don't give so much weight to your plot to a child next time. She did a good job. I wasn't feeling any of this. Maybe this was my personal preference and an L, since I think a lot of people gave it an entire star rating higher than I did, but just really just fell flat. Number 44, Lovely, Dark, and Deep. A new backcountry ranger travels alone through the dangerous wilderness, hoping to uncover the origins of a tragedy that has haunted her since she was a child. Because In a Violent Nature was already taken. This movie is FNAF coded. No, I will not be expanding on that, but sit with it. This movie begs the question, do the ends always justify the means? I truly believe this entire one is just to get to the end, and it's like, I almost fell a fucking sleep during the first half. I almost missed your Twilight Zone twist because your whole runtime was a snooze fest. Yes, even Georgina Campbell being a park ranger could not be satisfying enough to sit through this admittedly short runtime. Any horror iteration of park rangers like that one creepypasta of the stairs that go to nowhere is literally more enriching, or even like find Firewatch, the video game, is literally better and scarier than this fucking shit. Like, to whoever liked this one, because it was recommended to me by some horror YouTubers, like, feel free to defend this one, because I want to know if there's anything more in it, but, like, I could barely find anything to talk this one up. So, just not very good. 43. Tarot. Friends unwittingly unleash an unspeakable evil trapped within a cursed deck of tarot cards. One by one, they come face to face with fate, racing against death to escape the future foretold in their readings. Fun, albeit often obscure deaths, great camera tracking. Like, I really enjoyed the way the camera moves in this film. Unfortunately, I think a lot of this one lags. Owlin seems specifically intent on causing the flow of a popcorn slasher to grind to a halt. Like, no offense, but she was the worst part of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she's the worst part of this too. I'm tired of exposition dumping. Let's just leave audience scraps. She was a banger in Mandy, and that's it. I think this could have been better with more gore or emphasis on the death scenes, since that's what we're all here for anyways. Especially since the deaths, like, they projected to us were really brutal seeming. I would have liked to see more. Like, if this had maybe an R cut, maybe a Mithrigan, for the teens to get them interested. The creature designs were, like, too redundant for me, or not distinct enough for me to fully enjoy, but I'm glad Amantika got the best death sequence of them all. She deserved it. Sometimes less can be more. She if you're looking for a brainless teen scream, then this will be one that you love. It's relatively inoffensive in its mediocrity. I think the two main characters were almost excruciatingly boring. Like, I really wanted to skip ahead anytime the final girl and boy were talking. But sometimes the Jesse and Jade are apparently mainstays to slashers. But, spoilers for the end, I do love the trend of therapy talking to your murderers. Though, ironically or not, I think I want more of that shit. Just like a fun game of Uno Reverse. Let's Sarah Fear, as in provide an enriching backstory and dignity for all of the dead in all of our witches. So silly. Number 42. Azrael. Years after the apocalypse, a devout cult of mute zealots hunts down Azrael, a young woman who escaped her own imprisonment. Minutes 6 through 16, fucking rip. I'm personally iffy about the monster design, but I think it's a step up visually, at least from, like, Cuckoo's creature design, which is another creature I had problems with this year. This movie did not need flashbacks. Samara has one of the most expressive faces. Like, girl was born to act. Like, I wonder if she ever did any stage acting. And it's nice to see Nathan Stewart Jarrett. I'm really biased, but I do think I feel more scared from the scene in It with the mummy and that sort of, like, shamble walk than this one, but that's also inside baseball, you know. I don't think this movie, like, commits to its scares half the time. Like, my least favorite thing is when horror villains or monsters just walk away instead of killing a victim. I'm thinking of Smile or the scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. This movie just didn't need to be religious at all. I don't feel like it added anything. We did nothing special with the rapture concept. I was imagining a blighted earth, not a bunch of rusty but still working cars. Like, this was barely an apocalypse. Let's just not exaggerate, you guys. This all felt very Shyamalan, and I felt like there was a scene that tried to reference The Visit, but it just didn't work well for me because a director is not acclaimed genre-breaking Indian American director with 2 successful horror daughters. Sorry. I really wish the horror was way more significant than the action portion, but there were some really good, great, gory effects when we got around to it. Also, I would have smiled looking at that little Italy baby too. I know I say at some point in the script, like, I didn't watch Immaculate, but spiritually, I feel like I kinda did with this one. 41. Hellhole. An American-led fracking crew working deep in the Serbian wilderness uncover the unimaginable, a dormant parasitic monster. Maybe one of the more polarizing independent releases this year, which seems to be saying something. The creators behind Hellbender, my favorite of this family's directions, and last year's Where the Devil Roams, which I thought was one of the biggest stinkers. Watch my horror releases of 2023 video. Hellhole makes me more excited for the Zelda's breadth in this medium. Though this may be The Thing at home, I think I'd still rather watch this than The Thing 2017 based off of word of mouth alone, though it's definitely got some, like, skin-deep similarities. A definite improvement on last year's Where the Devil Roams for me. All I want to know is if the creature supports trans women or is also a TERF. I think the social commentary is less than half-baked. I'm not entirely sure what the takeaway for the metaphor presented at the beginning was. There's some really fun rock musical interjections. I fuck with it, and it's got a quick run time. It wastes no time, though it can get quite talky at points. Some of the acting may not be up to everybody's par, like me, but it's really just earnest enough for me not to care. I wouldn't fully recommend this one, but if you've got nothing else to do, it's on Shudder. Why not? Number 40, we're starting to get to the places that I'm scared to talk about. Maxine. Max XXX scene. In 1980s Hollywood, adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minx finally gets her big break. However, as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Los Angeles, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. Girl, what the fuck? No, really, I mean, what the fuck? I don't mean to be all like, I never liked Ty West, I only enjoyed Pearl and X of his projects that I've seen, but he had me there in the first half. Maybe I didn't care for The House of the Devil, and sure, I hated the ABCs of Death so much that I stopped watching it. What a disappointment. Also, one of the worst kill your gaze moments maybe I've ever seen, just the most fucking ridiculous I've seen in a while. I saw one person say that they liked it or that kill, and I am forced to disagree. I simply must. Sorry, how is it that Maxine spent an entire movie existing and a queer black man is just a kill? Sorry, maybe I'm just sensitive, but the best, most tension-filled scene to me was thankfully the best show don't tell scene in the movie, and had more to do with Maxine as a character going through trauma of memory and aging than the plot scares or screams. It was a well-directed horror scene. The rest of this movie wandering between giallo plot devices and expensive sets. The thesis of aging and sex seems to be an afterthought or set dressing when remembered, and I spent a lot of this movie doing a lot of grunt work just trying to enjoy its aimlessness. The real reason why this isn't a 2-star or a 2.5-star for me is because I think it feels good to round out a story. I've seen there might be a fourth of this series, but honestly I might not partake unless it's in the Pearl timeline. There were 2 great gore scenes, 1 stellar kill. I'll give this film its due diligence because it made me snort laugh when Lily Collins got kicked down the stairs in a suitcase. 2 random notes, Giancarlo was great, and I just love seeing him and shit, and everyone's accent was like 3 degrees off except maybe Kevin Bacon. Oh my god. I feel like I don't actually know who any of these characters are. I will also say backlot chase has been one of my favorite themes of the year, but I will acknowledge the backlot scene. It's just one of the worst. It's one of the worst. It's like how anti-fucking climactic. You know what? I will not accept a movie I do not deserve. Maybe this one technically should not be above Maxine, but whatever. 39, Frogman. In 1999, 12-year-old Dallas captures footage of the mythical creature Frogman, but no one believes it is real. 20 years later, he returns to the same place with his friends to obtain irrefutable proof that it exists. While it's not the most memorable or ultimately satisfying movie, it's absolutely a decent one. If you love found footage, creature features, or cryptids, this one is worth the short run time. The creature design leaves something to be desired personally, but the embodiment and the movement of the monster is creepy and fluid. It gives me Ratma vibes. I'll give this the kudos, though, for like being quite original with its lore. I don't believe the Frogman, which albeit a lame cryptid name, existed before now. And there's fun details to it that like remind me of those weird details you hear about your local cryptids where it's like, oh, okay, they take your coat buttons, okay, and its magical powers are teleportation, sure, I guess. There's some genuinely funny moments here too that I never got with like the other detestable protagonists of Deadstream or Dashcam. I liked the view of the town that we got. Every one-off actor is a delight, and I hope they had fun making this. It felt Blair Witchy. I also enjoyed that they included multiple threats in this movie besides the titular Frogman. The last third gets really silly, and I enjoyed the direction that it went. Though the direction changes at the very end in a very jarring way, I don't mind, like, the stinger or whatever it's called. Again, if you're a fan of all those subgenres that I mentioned, I think you'll enjoy this one, but I wouldn't say, like, it's groundbreaking. It's just fun. 38. Lowlifes. The survival instincts of a road-tripping family are put to the test when they have no other choice but to stay the night at a remote homestead. With a great cast and a premise that's a blast, Tubi is cranking out better horror than Blumhouse by my count. Also, side note, content warning for outing in this one. I'm watching this after I started From, and it's like abundantly clear to me that American horrors are basically just blatantly about bipartisanship now, which, like, yeah, I hate that it's black and white, but Speak No Evil is basically any person of color's fear navigating rural towns, and vice versa, for white folk keeping their mouths quieter in bigger cities. Now, I don't care about being a good person, maybe like the rest of the family, like the people in my life and my family. Like, I don't think I would concede, especially with these 2 country boys leering at this family's daughter, that none of these things would have happened to me, personally. At least I don't think so. This reminds me of, like, an early, like, Are You Scared episode before Watcher just tanked their viewership and did their whole YouTube fiasco, but I really liked that story when they did it. The practical effects on this one are so killer. I haven't revisited The Hunt in a few years, but I don't recall loving it, but this sometimes like treads into like the quite blatant like classist dialogue, but like after working in a smaller town for a year in the movie Am I Racist coming out after Reagan, you know what, I'm actually not surprised by Evil's candor. You're an addict and a lesbian? First it's sleeping with women, then it's the drugs, then you're living in San Francisco and knitting sweaters for a fucking farmer's market. This family is deranged completely, and I love how batshit it is, and then it stays. Sometimes the camera work is just too choppy for my tastes, but I don't know. It's quick and it's fun. If you want a lot of slashing, this is the digital release for you. 37. Trim season. A group of young people go to a remote marijuana farm where they hope to make a quick cash break, but they discover the location's dark secrets. elect my favorite slasher of the year towards the top half of my list, you will know these characters right away. There's some more latent exposition with the weed trimming than the other things, but I still like living with these guys. Alexia Ioannidis has crazy Allison Williams as Rose Armitage and Get Out energy, and I don't know why. Anyways, this is like if in Watchers the fairies were a weed witch, and it was a lot gayer. A certain kill made me remember, like, the Freddy sequels, and one of the brothers reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Electric Boogaloo. I just had a better time with this, like, wacky, out-and-out last third. I think it should have started and stayed with that, but it finishes wacky, which I like, and is in some ways dissimilar to all the other possible entries for Queer Fear that I could do this year. Honestly, I came for a Flanagan regular, weed, and some Bex Taylor Klaus screams, and I got all three, so I can't complain. Stay for the after cutscene, bring your stoner friends, and lots of popcorn and candy, and know it'll be okay to talk through some of the middle of this film. I'm starting to get nervous again. 36, The First Omen. A woman starts to question her, I'm like literally scared, her own faith when she uncovers a terrifying conspiracy to bring about the birth of evil incarnate in Rome. Okay, just take my opinions with a grain of salt, because I was never a big fan of this franchise, nor any of the subgenres that this franchise are under. I like the original just fine, but I'm not too interested in its sequels, nor do I enjoy The Exorcist and its sequels, like anything in that line. I always think religious people should probably like horror movies more, since like there's often a clear evil and often a way to vanquish it. Maybe not this one because it calls out the hypocritical Christians, but you know, I mean, it's hard to fulfill the premise of scaring people back into the church in your movie with the Antichrist in your legion, but I give them credit for trying and for the spin on the story. Now, this is still like a proper 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I really do feel like this is where I'm gonna start like receiving shit for this section of my list. Again, first of all, I want to acknowledge that the crew had to go through a lot to get this done. We're definitely in our own mini satanic panic movement right now, and they had to go outside of Rome for like 3 hours or so, like outside Rome 3 hours to like find desecrated churches to refurbish and film in. It's beautifully shot. Ralph Ineson is incredible in anything he speaks in. Nell Tiger-Free and Juliette Grappi from Red Rooms win Scariest White Girl of the Year award from me. Like, these two just look they look so haunted and scary at points. I love it. Also, shout out to this movie for going there. You know, with the vagina and the jackal penis shot. Like, you had to, since it's modern and we've got to show instead of tell, but goddamn, that was disgusting. A lot of heavy hitters for y'all's top 10s live in my 30s and 20s zone. Sorry. Dumb linguist note, knowing Latin is a very funny thing when it's like an hour and 5 minutes in. And also, I as much as I don't love this movie, an almost nun literally ripped her almost boy toy in half from a car wreck. So, like, I am forced to stand to a certain extent. Why is no one talking about that? As much as I enjoyed, like, the wild goose chase of a fucking original, I really, really liked this one too, but not as much as I think everyone else around me did, which makes me a little bummed. God damn it, I've been tricked into watching pregnancy horror again. I don't know how, but the tone almost felt like Malignance towards the end, at least to me. Like, did this need a Marvel moment to tie it into the original? It was so hokey. Also, am I crazy, or was there another movie besides Immaculate that came out, like, maybe a year or two ago about forcing someone to birth the Antichrist? Maybe I am, maybe it is Immaculate and I'm conflating, but I could have sworn that I watched something like this before. Anyways, I think a lot of people felt this was, like, an accurate spiritual successor, but as a person who, again, has never been much of a fan of, or nor been properly scared by religious horror, any sort of Anglican horror, this unexpectedly, fell kind of flat along the long run of 2024. Sorry, y'all. I like it! It's good! I'm, like, reading my own list, and I'm, like, realizing how, again, like, how good this year was, because, movies that I know people I follow rated 5 stars are on my number 35. So, I'm scared, but also, like, I don't know, I just feel very grateful to be around in this time of horror, you know? I don't know, whatever. 35, Oddity. After the brutal murder of her twin sister, Darcy goes after those responsible by using haunted items as her tools of revenge. I'll admit there were some good jumps and scares. The unveiling of the plot was absolutely my favorite part of this. That last shot is so fucking funny. This is my probably, like, meh of the year, since I refuse to watch more white women running around in movies this year. I'm sorry, Sydney Weenie. but my punch card was full of Flanagan alumnus. Anyways, this is my Talk to Me or Barbarian of years past. Like, I find those last two stories more enriching and something to gnaw on more than I find in Oddity. Like, I found the acting compelling, but the story was not gripping at all for me after the plot was revealed, so it won't really be a rewatch, kind of a miss for me, but I do think it's a serviceable story and I can see what others enjoy of it. Give me more of that not cabinet shelf of horrors, though. I'm very interested in that entire caveat shelf. Let's keep going with that. Number 34, the controversial Late Night with the Devil. In 1977, a live television broadcast goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. God giveth, David Delsmashian, Philena Reed Wool, and God taketh away. AI controversy not for the last time on this script. God damn it. This was one on my radar for like a minute, like before, and unfortunately because of the aforementioned shitty hot dog finger skeleton AI art, and also just being kind of a basic live TV show with some new additions than what Ghostwatch gave us, kind of fell through. The Bohemian Grove seems sketch as fuck, and I'm surprised we haven't incorporated that Nepo cult into more of our horror movies. And the setting for a Satanic Panic talk show is very promising. Similarly, I know I'm the mythology freak here, but there's gotta be someone who's gonna make an Egyptian magic horror movie with Abraxas. If you're a fan of talk shows, this will be up your alley, but as someone that doesn't generally love scripted humor, I know this is scripted. I never said I was funny. So this was like, I don't know, like a fun gimmick for me, but nothing really more. In general, I didn't care for most of the effects in the movie. The practical ones were very cheap looking, minus the worm, and the digital ones obviously stood out amidst the 70s backdrop. The Ghost of Madeline made me laugh then cringe when watching it. I love all the stuff with Mr. Wriggles and Lily. That was the best also of this. However, there was like a small budget with this one. So I think I'm willing to give it its flowers with what it had, and the actors really gave it their all. It was just so goofy and see-through. Despite breaking the third wall, or whatever that entire last part was, I wasn't actually as jarred by that, since this film had us going behind the scenes when we wouldn't have anyway. I thought the end was the boldest stroke that the film took, and I respected it for that. I really enjoyed the looming presence of the owl and what or who Jack would throw under the bus for his fame. I hope that David does more with his cool production company that had the best of the parade of the openings, but this one is definitely like just above average as a horror movie for me. It's about time we got some TV on this shit. Number 33, Joko Anwar's Nightmares and Daydreams. Tales of supernatural sci-fi phenomena unfold in this collection of 7 mind-bending stories. Bad synopsis, but I watched the subbed version because I don't understand Indonesian. There's a lot of intricacies in the acting that make up for Netflix's poor translational skills. I really wanted to be able to speak more on each episode, but honestly, like, as the year went on, they kind of faded from my memory, and I was left with the overall themes intact. The biggest one was that the rich will eat you. This was truly the most eat the rich awesome shit I ever saw, like, in its very out there theme with that metaphor. The digital effects, they weren't my favorite with this one. Again, I'm sorry I don't, like, have much to say on this one, but from, like, what a fever dream I do remember of this, there was, like, really good acting, good visuals, and a lot of heart. There were so many families in this that were individually torn apart by greed or capitalism or their own hubris, and these were all wonderfully cautionary tales. It's obviously not my biggest recommendation, but for a Netflix TV show, you could put on a lot worse. Includes, but is not limited to, Devil Child, Dementia, and the Taiwanese X-Men, I'm pretty sure. Number 32, this is controversial. The Watchers. An artist gets stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in Western Ireland. Finding shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers who are stalked by mysterious creatures every night. What I think is ultimately a heartwarming tale that aligns so well with his father's theses, that heart has its place in horror, and those who can try can be redeemed. I really, really do understand if people felt let down by this release or compared it to the novel and preferred that. I had no previous association with this story and just kind of enjoyed this bunker horror with mimics. Maybe one day I'll read all the novels of Shyamalan projects and make that a video. I think that could be fun. The thing that I have the least problem with is the fairy changeling monster. I really like that part and wish we just got more scares with it. I will say, though, y'all need to stop casting Georgina Campbell in your movies and just giving her no meat to work with. I'm sorry. The characters she's gotten this year seem very flat, and I don't know, maybe it's the writing. Speaking of that, of course, I think a lot of plot points were either dropped or fumbled. I'm not stupid, but I also think for a short PG-13 entrance to the genre, it's really not that bad. If my kid wanted to watch this to dip their toes in, I'd encourage them to watch this before throwing them into the body horror of old. Also, I don't have a kid. I don't know why I said that like I had a kid. Anyways, I will say Amanda Seyfried, of all people, kind of had the worst performance for me. Like, everybody else was really pulling against her sleepy, zoned-out focus. Her character, Mina, is also just pretty stupid. Somehow even more so than any of the other also stupid characters. It's just a little frustrating. I similarly wasn't the most impressed by Adeline again. My god, I'm sorry. I'm sure she's talented. I don't mean to, like, make her catch my strays or smear campaigner. She's so good at Mandy. I know she can deliver. Why not here, though? I don't know. Also, I wish that this movie, like, showed us Mina having nicotine withdrawals because she vaped in the first scene. I just think that's a funny setup. Like, there's no other ways you could express guilt and not wanting to be who you are. Like, I'm gonna vape and put on a wig. Like, am I about to give Barbarian more laurels than I actually think it deserves just because the writing suffers more, like, in other stories that she's cast in? Like, I don't know. This feels like you want to watch The Black Phone because you want more Stephen King goodness. So, like, watch this if you enjoyed Trap. Like, no offense, my other Nepo princess. It's just been a good year for the Shyamalan daughters. What can I say? What can I say? I'm a fan. 31. Strange Darling. Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. I didn't take notes on this one because I'm a goober, but this was definitely a serviceable movie. In fact, one I think the majority of whomever's watching this would enjoy. I just personally found it too Tarantino, or perhaps too pretentious by a hair for me. It's not as if Kyle nor Willa did a bad job. Again, I adore Willa in aforementioned last year's Fall of the House of Usher. Kyle is on his way to becoming one of my must-watch Scream Kings. So, while I couldn't exactly label what I didn't love about this movie, it just never scratched an itch for me. I did find elements of this one predictable, even with some of the ending being televised early, but I wouldn't say it's unenjoyable. This is a fun puzzle to put together as you watch it and decipher the act placements. This is a case of, this is a fine product, but I'm just not its target audience. The best parts of this really reminded me of playing Joel in The Last of Us, like breaking into families' houses and the unrelenting search for the fireflies in Kyle pursuing Willa. The cat and mouse game is fun, but for the most part, it dragged on too long for me, being the conceit of the movie for my liking. I think I had wanted initially more time with them as people before the chase begins. The character names of the demon and the lady are quite intriguing, and I don't know if I necessarily have more insight, unfortunately, on them besides them just trying to, like, set up our expectations to be subverted, but that's something I want to think about more. I found the end, not the movie's end, but the story's end, also kind of boring and thematically unsatisfying, especially for the lady's character. I probably didn't need to watch it, but don't say I didn't give y'all nothing. I'm not even confused by it, it's just ultimately not for me, but I can see why everybody rated it so highly and would be open to watching whatever director J.T. Molner's got cooked up if it's still in the genre. Now we're getting into the weird section. Now we're getting into the weird movies. 30, The Devil's Bath. 1750, Agnes doesn't feel at home in her husband's world. A shocking act seems to be the only way out. A profound and disturbing psychogram of a woman, based on historical records. The term Devil's Bath, meaning melancholia in this time period, this one was peripherally on my radar, but I originally discounted this because I'm not the biggest fan of the director pair. But after having and hawing over it and hearing some recommendations, I looked at the synopsis and honestly I was hooked. The true phenomena of depressed people, often women of the time period, who were afraid of further condemnation, killing others instead of killing themselves so that they could be sentenced to death in a godlier way. I wouldn't recommend that, though, if you're a fan of fucked up folk horror, whether it's mainstream like The Vivitch or maybe less like Hagazusa. This one's just gonna be right up your alley. Not to brag, but this is kind of what I'm trying to study in college right now, or like format my degree to, the idea that history and horror are one and the same and influence each other. I found a transcription from an interview with the director, noting she talked to several historians and read transcripts that they found along with an episode on the podcast The American Life. If anybody knows if any of them are public, like, please send them my way because I find this all so fascinating. One thing to note, in this transcript that I'll link in the down bar too, is that the lead actress is actually a musician who had never acted before and was contacted for the score of this movie, but then was asked to audition later. She is so fucking phenomenal. I was so surprised to find out that she wasn't like a seasoned actress in Australia. She's also known as Soap and Skin. Her music is pretty cool, so check her out. She plays this character with so much understanding that we as the audience are forced to empathize or even experience this unrelenting trauma and depression trammeling us. There's moments of grotesqueness that are aligned with Goodnight Mommy. I mean, the opening is just so fucking bleak and sets the tone for the rest of the story. So if you think that's your thing, and you've got it in your chest, in your heart that you can handle this, give this one a watch. Again, in this area, I'm easy to please. I adore any folk horror I'm given, and empathized heavily with the protagonist, a woman who just can't seem to have anything go her way. This made me just like clutch my neck. I'm literally thinking about it and like doing it in sympathy as I wrote this script. This movie is a fucking bummer, and will probably leave you having a grittier day than expected. But I guess that means I was horrified, so one cut off thumbs up from me. Number 29, Le Vor de Lac. I'm sorry, French people. Actually, I'm not. Lost in a hostile forest, the Marquise d'If, a noble emissary of the King of France, finds refuge in the home of a strange family. Okay, while I think those previous entries deserved those ratings for movie quality, I can say that I think this movie not only has quality, but I personally just like had a good old time from this part onwards. Based on the 1893 novella family of the Vor de Lac by Alexei Konstantinovich Tolstoy. Sorry for butchering that. This is a trance like storybook film that reminds me superficially of Gretel and Hansel. Any daylight horror or historical horror is gonna win points in my book, like I mentioned. I do think it's funny that this became accessible the same year as Nosferatu in more ways than one. The special effects work on this one for like the third in reveal, like the 1/4 in reveal, is just incredible. We stand a great grandfather. The outfits and colors felt so like Princess Bride to me, but as if it was written by a Grimm brother. I also never heard of this particular creature before, and was very enchanted by its design and everything that went into him. I don't love the French lord. I didn't even ever since he got all like grabby, but anytime the Vor de Lac is on screen, I'm like fully invested because his lore makes him terrifying and special amidst other bloodsuckers of this year. There's a beautiful round song in the back half that was haunting and fitting for the fate of the character. Very, Wicker Man. There's also a funky interpretive dance scene / royal dance scene, which is less good to be, but definitely still is less good, but still is captivating. The dad also just has the saddest looking face I've ever seen in a guy in Yegor. Also, am I the only one who kind of ships the Vor de Lac and Marquise by the end of it? Like, the ending is like a what the fuck moment ×3. And honestly, I loved that. Overall, I thought it would be a lot goofier, but it remained more grounded than I expected and was very somber and contemplative amidst its wackiness. Also, content warning for animal death. There's a cut to it at the end of the dinner scene, and it was gross. Number 28. Another controversial one. Longlegs. FBI agent Lee is assigned to an unresolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. What the fuck, y'all, again, but this time for completely different reasons than Max XX scene. Okay, so, like, while watching this, side tangent, sorry, I was just thinking about, like, my thing I'm cooking, and it, like, this movie sent me spiraling because I try to be a story man. I want to be most of the time. I think I'm a story man, but, like, so many people loved this, so I'm like, hey, maybe I'm the crazy one, you know? Like, anyways, Nick Caging, loved that. He was freaky as shit. We love him being the least important antagonist in a movie named after him and marketing him. That's some next level flop era behavior that I want to see embraced. I love his commitment, the way I feel like he did a 180 from Renfield's character, but they're both like really scary, with such clear body mannerisms. It's just so inspiring to me as another actor. I truly think he was made for the stage or the screen. I love Micah. She made me laugh so much in this movie. I loved her no-nonsense personality. I read her as a very autistic coded, but I can see why people may not like that reading or like think she's just being coerced by demons. But I liked it either way. Marketing was great. Superficially reminded me of Smile, But yeah, this film made me feel like Lee Harker, trying to piece the story together like a detective, but largely I think because of that I missed the big picture in my frazzled frenzy. I have to admit sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, and this year had a few of those, handling the undead, and I think kind of this one, I think Max Xkeen was just poorly executed. Some of this, maybe too. Some parts of this did scare me. If I ever encountered a character like Longlegs, I think I'd die on the spot, but it was more of the claustrophobic, confusing atmosphere that did the legwork for the scares. It was fun to try and spot all the devils, a bit distracting, but aside from the Book of Revelation canon tie-ins, I wasn't really a fan of the devil's look or the snake shots. They felt incongruent with the movie for me in a way that I thought, conversely, the dolls matched the tone. Also, if this was the devil's 100% run to go through the Harker family, I just think we could have had more fun. Poor Death Sentence Lee. I love the bookends of this film. Opening, the ending. This movie is one that, even though I know I've been given all the ingredients to work with, the recipe still kind of confuses me. Maybe I'm confused with the outcome. Even with the lore dump at the end, if anything, maybe that's what made it more confusing. Like, I would have probably pieced it together better if without that. Now, I don't need to, like, understand everything to enjoy it. I just kind of felt like half my brain was, like, trying to figure out the puzzle like Lee. So during the first time, I couldn't totally appreciate the vibes since I wanted to just understand it. But Oz Perkins, I really love your game. I can't wait for the monkey and whatever new polarizing horror movie you've got in the works. As someone that lives in the Pacific Northwest, are the cops here this fucking useless? I think you already know the answer to that question, but the other thing that makes me so sad is nobody coming to these girlies' birthday parties. The mom is a haunting actress in this. Holy fuck, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Hail Satan. If anyone sees me singing in the car like that, I think they see Longlegs. Like, I honestly think this would be just like a really good double feature with Gretel and Hansel, because like Oz has like a really unique perspective on growing up and growing into yourself and girlies. This oppressive atmosphere y'all keep blabbing about is likely just y'all finally warming up to the government not being very fucking helpful, but I'll let you live in your delusions longer if you want. Insert the screenshot of the Longlegs presidents just looming over the entire movie. Number 27, Abigail. A group of would-be criminals kidnaps the 12-year-old daughter of a powerful underworld figure. Holding her for ransom in an isolated mansion, their plan starts to unravel when they discover their young captive is actually a bloodthirsty vampire. God, I love heists. You got me at heists. I don't care if they give away vampires too early. Who cares? Our society has been on a vampire bite instead of kick lately, so I can't blame marketers for all that capitalizing. Let's be real. Whoever was watching this movie was gonna watch it, hidden creature feature or obvious creature feature or not. This is also my admission. I'm not watching your monster because it seems kind of repetitive to some of the movies I watched already in this list. But if you guys really loved it and think I need to watch it, then let me know. This one just felt fun. Like, you can tell everybody's having a really good time through the screen. I think Radio Silence as a collective just has that quality to them. I felt that in the last two Scream movies, but this is just like the best of their dumb fun, I think. I love this cast of characters. There's so many lines and places where people shine. The physical acting is incredible. I love the dialogue. Melissa Barrera has earned her place as a standout Scream queen. Obviously, I'm here for Catherine Newton, and her relationship with Kevin Durand was just like really adorable. And I really enjoyed seeing other Scream Kings this year, like Dan Stevens and Giancarlo Esposito again. Also, shout out to the late and great Angus Cloud, rest in peace. This one is so cozy. I don't know. This feels like the easiest recommend possibly of this whole list. I just think it's that inoffensive and pleasant. There's a couple kills that makes this extra memorable, along with having a blood-soaked set at the end. I can't complain. I want more of that. Though I think the finale takes away a little bit from Abigail's agency a bit too much. If there's ever a sequel, leave your buzzkill dad at home. Again, get me with a dance scene in a horror movie. There's just some really good homages to the original Dracula with the Swan Lake theme. And we love an all-out vampire fight. I'm so happy we're getting to, like, the sections of, like, things that I, like, really... Like, I had a great time with these. From, like... I mean, I had a good time with a lot of these, but, like, you know, I'm having fun now. 26. Trap. A man and his teenage daughter realize that they're at the center of a dark and sinister event while watching a concert. The opening of Trap is me the moment I hear any music I like ever. Again, I mentioned that is how I drive, like, long legs. This proves I'm willing to support Nepo babies if they're Asian and or related to a good artist, aka the Shyamalans. So, don't say I never gave the rich something. I love theaters and concerts as, like, a horror setup. Therefore, I was so pleased by, like, the notable artist horrors we got this year. The daughter dancing and singing to Lady Raven was real footage of me, by the way, preparing for the Childish concert this year, which never happened. Hopefully not because of serial killer reasons, but I guess I'll never know. Thanks, Donald. The way the Trap Man was watching his tortured dude with the volume up, lucky the guys around him would assume it's just corn. Maybe you can be a good dad and a murderer, all in one. I do love the motif of releasing your guilt or hurt for this movie, part and parcel for tortured artists. It's like when there's a dance scene at the climax of Us. But also, I can understand how lots of people could feel very much like the dad in this audience. A little out of the loop, but hopefully, like Mr. Trap, you are all supportive. Their relationship is the core of this movie. It's the reason the cat and mouse game stakes are more elevated than usual, and this girl's willing to leave her favorite artist's concert halfway through because her serial killer dad's tweaking. Just a little bit. Side note, the guy working at the concert at a t-shirt sale is so real because as someone who works at AMC, we fucking see you, okay? Maybe this guy was a poor judgment of character. Aren't we all sometimes? I love the end cutscene, but like, you litter or you backtalk to one of my coworkers, bro, you're on my shit list. Service workers see everything. Unlike him, I know never to trust a white man, even if he's a good dad. I loved all the side characters. The longer this movie went on, I realized the camp was intentional. The goofs made me laugh. I had a good time with this one, alright? Sue me. I liked his daughter's music. Lady Raven and Sky Riley have been blasted many a time on my playlist while I clean theaters. I like his movies. I'm not going to be bummed often by a Shyamalan flick. Competition. Who is the worst trained police force? Lee Harker in the Department of Vancouver, Washington, and Longlegs, or the SWAT teams in Tramp? Don't worry, either way you win because they're all pigs and they all failed at their jobs. But, fun thought experiment. Also, this guy is a sociopath because he threw out a fresh cup of coffee backstage that was from Crafty. In this economy? Also, I found this movie funny because of the Cooper's propensity to, like, stare the barrel of the camera down. None of these characters have never heard of being covert in their lives. Like, Seleka needs to join the Yellow Jacket cast for Biggest Eyes in Horror competition, and her costume for Dreamer Girl was fucking amazing. Taking advantage of the Jason Voorhees of it all, I love it. What I don't love is Shyamalan's old book trick of finding a mental illness or disorder and adding it to his villains. Also, he probably had a whole other son who was probably like, what the fuck, Dad? You won't stop until I doo-doo on myself now, will you, Kid Cudi being fruity in a blonde wig? Was something I never knew I needed. Hot damn. Hot damn. Man, I thought this was a popcorn flick, was a ride before we'd even hit the halfway mark. But this goes some silly, silly places. If you're this far and don't know if you want to watch it, there's a scene where the killer pushes a lady down the stairs as a diversion, and it just straight up doesn't work. And every time I think about it, I start laughing just like I did now. It's a good fun movie. Number 25, Stream. A family's simple weekend getaway truly turns into a vacation to die for, as 4 deranged killers, playing a sadistic game, lock down their hotels and compete for the most creative murderers of all the guests. With the family and the kills, this one feels very evocative of older fun and game slashers like The 13 Ghosts 2001. This is the new apex of all hotel motel slashers. Strangers play at night, found dead on the scene. Stream is just a fun-ass time, though it could do with being a good 20 to 30 minutes shorter. It really hits its stride like 30 minutes in for me, so if you can be patient enough for the payoff, to me it is so worth it for any gore hound. If you see Jeffrey Combs in a parlor game setting, fucking run. Honestly, maybe if you see him, I know he's like the kindest guy, but also he could be the Herbert West in disguise if he's not playing a game. So maybe, yeah, just run, period. Player 2 and Player 3 ate. Like, I don't care about the grunt work of everyone else. David is honestly really funny as a faceless mime. Like, this guy is just so awesome. I cannot emphasize their cute theatricality enough. There's just one kill in this that, honest to God, had me, like, nearly, like, kicking my feet and twirling my hair. Genuinely made me consider watching Terrifier 3 for his unmasked face because of his sadism in this. Just so good. So much horror royalty and slasher appreciation, from every scene with necessary libido to running up the stairs. So much snort-worthy camp, even if half the kills aren't full on. It's fucking wonderful. What a brilliant showcase of special effects. The end had me doubled over, by the way. This is how I know I'm a sicko. Y'all stay till the very end. There's like 6 more kills. I have one question. Who the hell is on the letterboxd cover with 2 different colored eyeballs? I can't say I'll watch this one again without skipping at least like 20 minutes in though. So that's why this can't be any number higher on my list or in the star rankings. Y'all should do a double feature of this and then Truth or Dare with Jeffrey Combs and just absolutely just shatter the mood of the hangout. Just bring down the whole vibes. All just ruin it. Ruin everyone's night. That'd be really funny. Number 24, Tiger Stripes. The first among her friends to hit puberty, Zafan discovers a terrifying secret about her body. Ostracized by the community, she fights back, learning that to be free, she must embrace the body that she once feared. This one is for the little girls who hit puberty before all the rest of the kids in their grades did. Shout out. In the way that I relate to I Saw the TV Glow, from older teenhood to young adulthood and so forth, I can see a lot of myself in Tiger Stripes. While it reminds me superficially of Raging Grace from last year, it succeeds in being more than an Asian trauma bait by telling a realistic portrayal of a Malay girl going through puberty. She's often called a slut for her body growing up too fast, bullied by her teachers, misunderstood by her family, and unsupported by her friends. While there are some great horrifying daytime shots, my issues with this one are only with it just not being scary enough when it wants to be scary. I do agree it could have been cut shorter, but I'm kind of completely okay with just seeing more beautiful scenes of Malaysia. The sound design was beautiful, the forest feels so alive and verdant, and the lead actress, like, holy shit, she is delivering on every fucking level. The CGI isn't very good, but the heart and the surrealism is there, and I enjoy the simplicity of its plot because it's able to tell a rich story within one protagonist. I will say, like, a content warning for, like, a decent amount of parent shit, like a mom hits her daughter and they fight a lot. Later, a group of men literally gang up on the same girl with a stick, and I almost turned it off in fear of what was gonna happen, so, like, just be careful with yourself. It doesn't, but yeah. What took away from this movie for me is, like, the entire Dr. Rahim character and how that literal hysteria, like feminine hysterectomy type hysteria, literal, reminds me a lot of how churches treat children with, like, autism or ADHD today, still lambasting them and praising God to change them at the same time. It's vibes. Not sure I understood the ending, but damn is this movie charming. I would give this one a recommend. Vermines. I don't know if I said that right. Passionate about exotic animals, Caleb brings a venomous spider home, but it accidentally slips away. Soon, residents of the apartment building are battling an army of deadly, rapidly reproducing spiders. I love a good old-fashioned goofy or serious creature feature. Or Infested. Standout scenes are the he's family, but he's sick, and the older man just sadly realizing, like, they won't help him and retreating back to his domicile. There's just some really good character scenes, really good jump scares, real scares, like after effects of the old man dying, the cups full of spiders, one guy holding his homie and vaping, surveying the damage. Also, this movie has, like, a lot of animal death, like, that's to be expected, but there's a dog that gets walked in on, and I hated it. Great soundtrack, OST, whatever. I loved all the music in it, this French rap. There's just one shot that just spirals and keeps going and going and going with the spiders from the green light, and it made my heart pound. I was just so inspired. I loved it so much. Not to compare it to too many, but it surpassed what I wanted to enjoy in Evil Dead Rise, Wreck, and The First Purge 2018 in terms of urban panic horror flicks. We really need more of that shit. There's also another scene, like an hour 15 in, that's so brutal and especially well acted too. I didn't have as bad of a year as Caleb. Shout out to every ancillary white man to clubbing him in his fucking head, and to Caleb for withstanding multiple concussions. Seriously, there's also a scene where there's 2 black characters forced into the ground and threatened by cops at gunpoint. Just an FYI, if that image is triggering to you, because it was kind of jarring in the middle of a creature feature, for me at least. Number 22, Mr. Crockett. A mother embarks on a perilous quest to rescue her son from a demonic children's show host who is kidnapping kids. Mr. Crockett is pretty delightful from, like, start to finish, with probably my favorite of the titular villains this year, aside from Sir Nosferatu, who's also iconic, with some near Clarence Williams III from Tales from the Hood beginning level of eating. Take a big bite, it's good for your health! And, like, hints of the Banana Splits movie, Had a Baby. I love this baby with my life. Hulu always has so much fun with its horror movies. Like, they're honestly so camp for that, and they're very successful in that niche. I think the dialogue was lacking at times. I do wish there was more screen time with Mr. Crockett and his puppets, or in his underbelly. Boo to anybody who said less is more. I'm a typical Gen Z maximalist. I need more. I want more. I literally love these furry freaks like they're my own sons. I think it's funny that this movie and another movie came out in the same year because they both tackled nostalgia of this era differently but very deftly. But I think everybody in the cast did a really good job with this one, and I can't wait to see what this man's gonna do next. Honestly, I love a sequel. I just loved everything about it. Had a great time. What can I say? 21. Cuckoo. 17-year-old Gretchen reluctantly leaves America to live with her father at a resort in the German Alps. Plagued by strange noises and bloody visions, she soon discovers a shocking secret that concerns her own family. Ah yes, the horrors of retail. The first part of this movie is so unbelievably cozy, and the premise is just so unique. The color grading and aesthetics of this film, God, neon is working its way up there next to A24. The irony of the entire cast treating Gretchen like she's odd is so funny because she looks so Germanic to me. What is it with all this damn Dark Knight horror shit? I'm sick of it. There's one scare that, like, actually made me yelp, so I'll commend the jumps in this one. That's a fucking weird way to put it. This is honestly my infinity pool this year when it comes to, like, hot people doing gross shit and nobody watching it. There's definitely notes of It Follows here, and I really love the distortion and time fuckery. The editing and shot compositions are near perfect, and this movie is actually scary to me. I will say what the monster looks like at a closer look is not actually scary to me. But what it does, maybe it'll destroy the conceit of the movie, but I do think you should look up trigger warnings for this one if you're sensitive to certain things. And same for Mr. Crockett. There is a good amount of, I should have mentioned that. There's some racism in that one. Yeah. There's so much head trauma in this film. Even I properly squirmed a few times. I also think it's really funny that there's a particular name that stood out to me in the film, the first watch, that probably could have clued me in to the third act, but what a twist. There's a few shots that I can't tell if they're supposed to be funny acting-wise or not, but even more than that are properly funny. Admittedly, the gimmick doesn't, like, last as well towards the end. 10 seconds, spoiler alert, this beautiful femicide woman-led movie just has guys shooting at each other for its climax. And then it coalesces into something I'm really quite unsure of, like, the differently abled implications of, but overall, what a fucking romp. I'm willing to do a So Queer Fair if y'all wanted me to expand even more on this one. Also, for a minute, Trap and Cuckoo were next to each other in the theater releases, just looking at each other, and I thought it was really funny. Number 20, The Creep Tapes. A serial killer lures videographers into his world with the promise of a paid job documenting his life. Little do they know the mistake they made. As the tape rolls, the killer's questionable intentions surface with his increasingly odd behavior. This show on Shudder left a memorable impression despite being late in an already stacked year for anyone who had been eagerly awaiting Mark Duplass's Peach Fuzz to grace their screens. I think the brevity doesn't take away from its brilliance. While I would have enjoyed the longer film medium, I'm still hoping for Creep 3 and an update on Sarah, please. Seeing the breadth of his tapes was not the direction I naively expected this series to go, but I felt so rewarded by watching them. Also, after watching Heretic, the third episode is really funny. I love this film, Nut, and everything that he embodies. Love that it's canon that Joseph and Peach Fuzz is a fucking Smosh fan, because Daddy needs his juice! I love how distinct each episode is, despite Mark steamrolling every character in each of the brilliant premises, to hijacking a bird watcher, skydiving, to commissioning someone for an actor's reel. It's the original Speak No Evil. He's testing someone's social limits to their catered life, calling or hobby in a way you know you would easily be swept up in your own field. I know if he was my ghost face, he'd have me on the phone for at least a half an hour. Joseph even plays with the tempo of the plot. Sometimes he reveals himself right away, sometimes it takes the entire episode for the shoe to drop. Admittedly, for me, episode 4 dragged until through most of episode 5, but I still enjoyed my time with this series. The finale is damn crazy, so for that to be crazy amidst the series is astonishing. Just, honestly, a very underrated franchise that I still really appreciate. 19, Milk and Cereal. A found footage film following two roommates who are social media influencers that push the boundaries of their pranks to increasingly dangerous levels. With the shortest runtime of the group coming in at 60 minutes, there's still at least 2 or 3 twists and turns inside this YouTube found footage flick that all worked for me. This reminds me of Deadstream or Spree. I love a good found footage, so this immediately was up my alley, as well as it being a 60-minute give or take movie. Like, I'm just starting to think this might have been the dark horse of pitch black comedies. The dark horse year of pitch black comedies, because a lot of these movies made me laugh in their dark absurdity. There's a scene where someone's being murdered, and a character tells someone else who's screaming, "Stop! You're being loud!" And it just made me wheeze. I really liked all the Scream paraphernalia because it reminded me a lot of Five Scream 2022. For those eagerly expecting Creep 3 like me, and had been waiting for years, I would say that this can scratch that itch for you. This ending on this Bleachers ass song, long legs having tons of T-Rex, like, we need more comically inappropriate needle drops, I think. Also on an unrelated note, this guy Milk looks like a serial killer. I'm sorry to the actor, but this man is not invited into my friend group. He looks like a murderer. So yeah, go figure. Number 18, Y2K. On the last night of 1999, 2 high school juniors crash a New Year's Eve party, only to find themselves fighting for their lives when the terror of Y2K becomes a reality and all the machines rise up against humanity. Video of me holding the clip on my computer because fucking copyright claim, Fred Durst. Your best bet is to stay away. President Fred Durst making his rounds through A24 horrors this year. Y2K is the best kind of dumb fun one can have. I mean, skip this part for 10 seconds if you haven't watched the movie, but it's hard not to love a movie where a Tamagotchi drills someone's brains to death, and a microwave takes down the kid Leroy. The looming fear of artificial intelligence inherently was presented here, but in a hilarious way, and the entire fucking cast was just so lovable. Again, I am begging to have a career like Lachlan's, but the message of the film, Just Do You, was one that I loved and found in lots of films this year. Again, my tagline at this point should just be horror with heart. I just had a great time. I love slashers of every decade. My god, are you done? 17, and one of my personal favorites, like, this is gonna be the most underrated one I think that I'm talking about, Departing Seniors. After being bullied, witty high schooler Javier develops psychic abilities, which he must use to stop a mysterious serial killer targeting his classmates. This was my favorite slasher of the year. It's a hoot and a holler and a half. I love gay Mexican Peter Parker and his weird cosmic touch powers. This and Stitches felt like a really good companion piece for modern day slashers. Like, to pitch you the comedy of this gimmick slasher, the main character asks his dad, after he realizes he can touch people and understand their entire life story and trauma, he goes up to his dad and goes, "Hey dad, do you have any history of mental illness in the family? I'm choked. Eat some more rings of my rings, bitch." Even the editing is funny. Boy's got psychometry and a serial killer's after him. It's giving Chucky season 1 with the funny lines. Like, I loved all the horror and the heart in this. Maybe sometimes there was more heart than horror, but they basically tricked me into watching Love, Simon with a few kills, and I couldn't be happier. Content warnings for suicide and self-harm in this one. There's plenty of blasé-ness about those two things, which I find very funny as a depraved, depressed person, but avoid that if you're not doing too well. The ending monologue from the slasher, I could give or take, but I enjoyed the eliminating of the red herrings. Okay, I'll be right back. Fuck, I shouldn't have said that. Fuck. So funny. Dude, if this movie had the budget of, like, Happy Death Day, it truly could have been an all-timer, but as far as I'm concerned, this held its own. In fact, this, like, really might be one of my favorite teen slashers of all time. Tristan, I know you're watching this. We're each other's Bianca. I love you, girl. They're good girls at the end. I want a sequel. This one just felt so lovingly created, and if you guys have any horror movies that are like this one, please let me know, because I had such a good time. I just had a really good time. Number 16, Red Rooms. Kellyanne is obsessed with the high-profile case of a serial killer, and reality blurs with her morbid fantasies. She goes down a dark path to get the missing video for the murder of a young girl, to whom Kellyanne bears a disturbing resemblance to. Honestly, not the synopsis I give the movie, but okay, just trust the process on this one. It's really that kind of movie. Rip Kellyanne, you're not dead, but you would have loved the shit out of A Lot of True Crime by Penelope Scott. What a year for French horror, and I am forced to acknowledge they exist. After 10 minutes, knowing what Red Rooms was, watching it, I almost wasn't sure, like, I could brave it. But since so many people I enjoy the reviews of rated it so highly, the curiosity got the best of me. We're dropped into the middle of a sensationalized trial for a murderer of 3 little girls, and I won't elaborate because YouTube, but also just know it's really grisly. The first minutes, like 10 minutes, are stark, and the rest of the movie is still dark and ominous. Another movie with great composition, accuracy, and attention to detail. The camera work is expert yet subtle. The lead actress is captivating and distracting in the best way. Even when the camera isn't directly focused on her, she's still a standout amidst other commendable performances. This whole movie has like a serious, sterile, and eerie ambiance. I think if you enjoyed or felt the oppressive atmosphere of Longlegs, you'd really like this one for that. The main character is so unstable. I'd love to see this woman in more things. I hope she's done more horror performances. She's really good. This movie feels evil and intense and demands sustained attention to interpret its ending, but it's complicated in a beautiful and striking way if given the proper nurturing. This did the OG Texas Chainsaw thing where I thought I saw violence, but there was none that I at least was looking at. Also, all the Arthurian references. What a great year for literary references in horror. This one just deserves a really deep dive, and I'm not sure if I'm the man to do that, but this one, again, reminds me of Infinity Pool, in that I don't want to give away too much, but it will cause you to delve inward. Big recommendation for this one. None of it, like, you don't see anything, but you feel like you do. It's good. Number 15, Brahma Yugam. A folklore singer from the Penang caste loses his way after narrowly escaping a slave market. He stumbles upon a mysterious tradition that changes his destiny. This movie is delicious. The best black and white horror since The Lighthouse, and yes, maybe I haven't watched any others since that contemporary one, but I think more of us should be fucking with color and tone. Also, honestly, just as disorienting as that movie too. Now, the version I watched had not perfect translations, I think, and I'm also inevitably missing a lot of cultural references and details, but I really wish I could have seen this one on the big screen because the vocals alone were gorgeous on top of just it visually. Damn, Kayvon can sing. The score is wonderful. They literally have an animation sequence in the middle of the movie. Like, it's so awesome. Midway creature design goes so hard. I got jump scared and I loved it. Definitely something I think I'll need to rewatch with the context that I know now. If you want to learn more about this movie after watching it, there's a great article called The Chatan as the Metaphor, Different Ways to Read Mammootty's Brahma Yugam, that explains a little bit more about Kerala folklore, why the ending happens, who the mysterious seductress is, breaking it down easier for someone who is pretty ignorant to, I think, 18th century Indian caste culture. As far as I researched, there wasn't just one story that went into this, but a morphing of general culture and feelings and folklore. The length lends to its purgatorial feel, but I also think that some could be shaved. All three main actors pulled so much weight, it's actually kind of crazy when I, think about it, especially Mammootty. He's just so scary in this movie, I love it. I also looked up this man, he's been in, 400 things. What the hell? There's a sequence with a guy where a guy is rolling in a room that's closing in, and then just cuts to him being stood still in the same room. It's just so good. There's so many good visual moments. This got a little Hobbit-like at the end, but I can live with it because the second to last ending is awesome, and the last ending is bleak. This one's kind of hard to get at moments, but honestly, I'm really, really glad I watched it and it hunted it down, and I think that there's only so much more I can get from seeing this a second time. So, again, big recommendations. Number 14, In a Violent Nature. When a group of teens takes a locket from a collapsed fire tower, they unwittingly resurrect the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred by a horrific 60-year-old crime. The undead killer soon embarks on a bloody rampage to retrieve the stolen locket, methodically slaughtering anyone who gets in his way. I'm gonna say something, and not everyone's gonna agree. In fact, I'm going to be very mean for a second. I'm starting to think some of y'all just aren't funny. Just don't have a sense of humor, just don't have whimsy in the way that I do. In a Violent Nature was a gruesomely grotesque fantasy character slasher study that I loved. Listen, I know I love slashers. You know I love slashers. The sound design, magnificent. In fact, I think most of y'all think it's lowbrow horror, and I don't care. I'm always looking for the next creative kill. This movie, chock full of them. This is the most granola movie I've ever loved, with just enough sprinkling of heart and backstory for theorizing too. I'm not sure why everyone thought this was a slow burn, as I believe it's exactly what it says on the tin for every slasher, if you were to swap the shitty trite dialogue for gorgeous nature shots. I urge those that malign this movie to rewatch the original Friday the 13th and take a deep breath. Someone called this the Skinamarink of slashers, and honestly, that's doing a disservice to my time and money spent watching Skinamarink in theaters, and I'm not sorry about that. Not a fan of the Terrifier original, so I haven't tuned in for Terrifier 3. Needless to say, there's one kill in this that will not be topped by my eyes this year. The last third is a choice, admittedly, but I think it's like a switching of the POV from Tommy to the final girl, which is why the editing is more kinetic, maybe. Maybe it's a wrong word, I don't know. While I enjoyed following Tommy and we wish we saw it through fully, we did not receive the Pamela Voorhees monologue to save this ending. In a phrase, this film tickled me. Gotta respect a 90-minute well-shot bit. For lucky number 13, A Quiet Place, Day 1. When New York City becomes under attack from an alien invasion, a woman and other survivors try to find a way to safety. They soon learn they must remain absolutely silent as the mysterious creatures are drawn to the slightest sound. This year is apparently the expectations game because I only knew I loved the cast list and that I didn't enjoy this franchise at all, so this one really snuck up on me. Also, I don't care if this is a spoiler, the cat lives. In a moment of internet oversharing, my antidepressants were backlogged at the pharmacy, so I was just hanging by a thread when this movie was released streaming, and it really took it out of me emotionally. Maybe it was the us of it all, where the character of Sam was so rich, and I loved the subway descent scene, or the genuinely thrilling scenes heightened by the fact that I'm also a bitchy cat dad who would forego apocalypse planning for pizza. But God, these characters, they just really resonated with me immediately more than the first family ever did. I don't know why that is. Maybe because there were families of color in this one and found families or otherwise. I mean, I have my grapes. We saw too much of the monsters. Even if I was interested, they still looked too Stranger Things Demogorgons for my taste. The government showed their asses by knowing too much, and I didn't find that super realistic unless they engineered them. Maybe that will happen. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with this franchise, but you know what was done right? One of my favorite scenes. It wasn't even horror related at all. I love when Eric's suspense scene with, like, Frodo, the beautiful cat actor, by the way. Love, love, love. But it was the lightning and the thunder crackling and then screaming in time with it. I love how queer-coded Sam was with these boys, them and their odd couple boys. There's a perfect shot of them sitting by an on-fire sewer grate and holding each other. And then the scene after that, I cry. I mean, I literally did cry. They're swapping each other's clothes this whole movie. It's beautiful. Very steady of them. Joseph Quinn, Be Not a Dork challenge. I love the shots of New York in shambles. It was gorgeous. These characters are a lot smarter about manipulating sound than the others have been. And yeah, okay, I ship them. So what? Also, the pics of Doja and Eddie live rent-free in my head. I think they were from the shoot. I also can't wait is about him. Why am I... Whatever. This movie, emotionally, took me by my little whiskers, my little cat lapels. I don't know. It just... Lupita. Period. Number 12, T-Blockers. A young filmmaker and her friends square off against an ancient evil when an earthquake unleashes parasites in a small Australian town. Finally, after a year of me searching, T-Blockers hit streaming. Thank you, Shudder. I love you, Shudder. Man, Alice doesn't take even a year off. Director loves Bit, and it shows. There's so many good quotes ranging from, sorry, I only date guys with smaller dicks than me, to, what's the point in knowing who I am when I can't be who I am? This after-date drug sesh minus the hard shit reminds me a lot of every bad date I've ever had and my queer or allied friends that are up cheering me up afterwards. The colors, the montages, they're my favorite. The tandem vomiting and then rock star sign is everything to me. This film was kind of reverse Toxic Avenger. It eventually does become linear, regular Toxic Avenger, but it starts otherwise, which was kind of fun. Instead of going on a vigilante justice spree, these bigots just, they become more bigoted. I'm officially asking, no begging, Alice Mao Maki to cast me in their next project. I love Toshiro Gun. He's in your work. Cast me to be their family member. Kai, K, he, they, 5'4", willing to shave my plucked eyebrow T-boy mustache. The homegrown feel of the characters and the filmmaking, there's just clearly artistry and knowledge, yes, but it's this down-to-earth way that B and A movies can't quite capture. This movie is super talky in a way that's often charming, but sometimes saccharine. There's a few scenes that are unnecessary towards plot advancement, under a microscope, extraneous or hypocritical with the drug-fueled montages, poor with no final acknowledgement or resolution, but I still really enjoyed all of the things that we watched in this movie. One of my favorite conversations is between our main character and her love interest about his friend who's been evangelized by Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. Like, what do you do when you know him and you love or once loved him? The protagonist, Sophie, has this ACAB trans flag on her jacket the whole time, and halfway through we learn her father, who is supporting her financially through her transition, is a cop, all the while acknowledging it's fear and desperation that get us to these places. It attempts to capture some moral grayness to precarious interpersonal and intersexual values and relationships in a way that I haven't really seen in other movies. The horror was slow to warm, but for once, I didn't really mind. 40 minutes in, we veer so hard into the camp territory. I would say it's not even funny, but it really, really is. This is the future liberals want. Blue hair, pronouns, strolling in with their crazy rave gear with my queer posse samurai swording trans chasers. Tag yourself, I'm doing poppers before killing men at a children's playground to protect the trans kids there. But at the core of it, it's confronting global trans suicide rates and hate crimes in this aggravated social time we are in, because every ounce of acceptance, it's one step forward and almost always 3 steps back, if not more. And saying what all the other trans horrors said this year, hang in there. It's so fucking hard, and sometimes it feels like it will never end, but we've got to hang in there. There is so much queer love to experience, so much acceptance in your future. More than anything, there's love and fun and so much charm in this movie, in a movie, and I'm quite fond of it. I think this would be a really good background party movie, double feature with my previous What's Gonna Happen Next of this year, and for you and all of your queer friends. And also, never fuck with queer filmmakers. Number 11, Slay. 4 drag queens booked at the wrong venue managed to win over an unfriendly crowd when they become the dive bar's defenders against a vampire attack. Mama, I don't think I'm gonna make it to the end of the horror media list of 2024. Number 11's a word that I started saying ironically like a month ago, and now I can't stop saying it to overgrown conservative men in my theater when they respond to cash or card. Another to be original, but this one really stole my heart, I think, above the rest. Again, it's that good horror with heart. I've never watched RuPaul's Drag Race, so I'm not familiar with any of these queens, but everybody gave a good performance. If you combine horror and gay shit, obviously I'm gonna be invested. Also, if you like this and haven't heard of it, the Boulet brothers do a lot of horror and drag content over on Shudder. It's awesome and a lot less transphobic than RuPaul's. Anyways, I've never seen a movie where bigotry is what spreads vampirism. And you can have vampirism but be relatively harmless if you have good morals and care for your fellow alive and dead man. That's awesome as a metaphor. Sometimes this film drags, haha, but it got so much heart at stake. I'm sorry, I'm done with the puns. That I just love it anyways. Not all the characters are gonna grow on you as the others do, but there were a lot of them who were very comforting to me. This one is so full of glam and gore, and I love the crazy action kill sequences and dancing. The looks are looking, everyone is serving, and it's a great one-location horror. This one's definitely a popcorn horror, one to throw on at your next niche gay Halloween, but again, it shows that queer adversity is one of the strongest things of all. I can't believe we've finally made it to the top 10s. The top 10. It's crazy. Been here for a minute. I think I'm seeing the sun go down. But number 10 is Heretic. 2 young missionaries become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of a diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his home, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. As someone who was raised in the Christian church, alternating between denominations, but largely with a Catholic influence, and is also in love with Sophie B. Thatcher. Wait, Sophie B. Thatcher, I think that... No, that's who I'm talking about. I'm crazy. I love Yellow Jackets. Heretic has been one of my most anticipated watches of the year, and one I knew would challenge me regardless of how the product turned out. I'm at this moment deeply agnostic, I think. This movie is so well written, it feels like it was devised or improvisation. It felt so reminiscent of The Midnight Club to me, in particular the monologue of the butterfly in relation to Anya and her ballerina statue. This is the type of shit I'm on, by the way. I love them referencing thought experiments and philosophers and ancient religions. The religious themes align with that as well, so if you love one, you'd love the other, in my opinion. Also, tag yourself. I'm way more Sister Barnes than Sister Paxton, and I love how they play off of each other. Even on a smaller screen, the monologic dialogue plus the score plus the subtle zooming in shots made my heart pound at times. The conceit is so simple, and that's what works. The sets are fucking gorgeous. Like, I absolutely adore the way that old grandma wallpaper blends on the weird curves of each other. Then the next room is a library led into by a creepy bronze statue in a hexagonal house with a leak in the roof. It's just all so rich. I loved the first half, but this to me sticks its landing. The ending is really haunting regardless, I think, of how you believe it shakes out. Because like religion, the ending offers you a choice between belief and knowledge. And yeah, maybe no matter how awful this year was, seeing an old man Hugh Grant go, Jar Jar Binks, excuse me, never mind, will still have me rolling every time. Man, I'd love to see Mr. Reed and John Kramer get coffee. This movie to me is the interaction of your parents handing you cash to put in the church bowl. It's conditioning. I had a great time with this. Obviously, I am not Mormon, so if I have any ex-Mormons or current Mormons that are, or LSD, Latter-day Saints, LDS, sorry, not LSD, practicing, I would love to hear your perspective of the movie. Or, honestly, any religious people's perspective of the movie. I just had a good time with this one. Single digits. 9. Alien Romulus. Space colonizers come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe while scavenging the deep ends of the derelict space station. I was starting to worry about halfway through the year I wouldn't have a horror movie on this list that scared me. Like, traditionally, like my body reacting to something before my brain even does. The type of fear that makes you sink as far away from the screen into the chair that you can. And I'm thrilled to say that for me was Alien Romulus. It delivered so hard on that front. Like, don't get me wrong, the horror of one of my later mentions is going to be more palpable than the temporary frights I got from Romulus. But are you fucking kidding me with that entire last 20 minutes? Fuck me. The score is incredible, the practical effects are squeamish, and the ships are just breathtaking. The Wallaceys are inspired. There are so many iconic shots like Andy frozen and changing into another AI. Oh my god. Like, yeah, I'll admit the admittedly on-brand actual AI usage for a quick reference of a past actor wasn't actually necessary, and it should be afforded the same scolding and alerting to the producers that we're kind of sick of it, because it's drawing and it looks kind of shitty in the same way that we ragged on The House of the Devil, because we can't be doing this. It takes the wind out of the tension-filled scene to be like, look, it's that thing that you know. That was the only time to me that this movie ever felt overdone in its acknowledgement of its previous successes. The bitch line from Andy will get a slight pass because it's Andy and I love Andy and I'll fucking fight you because yes, maybe it's retconny, I think a little bit for him to be a sibling, and maybe it's weird politics that maybe I could sparse if I took a video to. And ultimately Andy left me feeling off sometimes, but I love Andy. Have I mentioned that I love Andy yet? I think most things were Chekhov's gunned correctly. It was disturbing, and again, that last 20 minutes is just balls to the walls terror. Also, Fede saying that the cousins are close, and then giving some acknowledgement to the theory that it's an incest baby. I can't remember what podcast I heard that on, but it added so many layers of ick to this movie. Y'all, from that guy, whatever Rain's love interest name is, he's not important. Have I talked about who is important, though? Andy. Anyways, jokes aside, I have a feeling David Johnson is one to look out for in the future. The way he played the artificial person, then the more robotic side of the artificial person, I just fell in love. And hopefully we will see him in Alien Earth. I mean, they set it up, but they better. His character and how he was treated actually broke my heart, and I wanted to cry both times I watched it. Like, I really hated Rain for some seconds. Speaking of, Kaylee Spaney as Rain was nothing to snuff at, and I loved Eileen Wu, and I just wanted more time with her, even if she just had, like, a fucking awesome kill scene. If you feel this was improperly placed, no, I accept discourse, but I'm also a newbie to any and all space franchises, including Alien, and have gone as far as watching Aliens in this list, so I can't wait to see what the sequel to this is like and ingest more Alien content in the future. I know some people don't like that it tried to tie in all the sequels, including the video game, which I still haven't seen, but it's like, If it's a prequel, why wouldn't it? I don't know. I think some of y'all are just haters. Troy and Abed would be so proud of this movie, I think. Clearly, Fede is great at breathing new life into old franchises, and I'm just once again really happy to be around for this time in horror history. Also, Colin, if you're seeing this, fuck you. Fuck you, you fucking fuck. Fuck you for taking the red facehugger poster. I know I could have bought one online, but it's the principle. I went up fair and square by writing it down first in the logbook. It's the receipts. I could prove it to you, but whatever. I'll move on. I could, that could have been the red facehugger poster. It's fine. It's fine. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. It's fine. Yes, this is a different outfit, different day. You can kind of hear my laptop in the background screaming. We're just gonna roll with it because if I acknowledge it, I'll start to cry. And you don't want to see that. Number 8, exhuma. The process of excavating an ominous grave unleashes long hidden secrets and dreadful consequences buried underneath. Or Pamyo, the original title was just incredible. Barely any notes, even while I don't think I understood everything. Honestly, maybe I didn't even get half of it, but I didn't need to. It was stunning, visually and innovative in its storytelling. Talk about a dream blunt rotation. I want to know what type of whack shit these Ghostbusters get up to. I love ghost hunting taken seriously. I enjoy as an Asian person, or generally as people of color, we lack a lot of suspicion or reservation to the supernatural the way that white people refuse to just take it seriously or believe it at face value. Like, I know so many Asian brothers and sisters and siblings that have family psychics, so like truly none of this perplexes me. If I wasn't American, I'd already believe in ghosts. Don't get me wrong, I too want to see ghosts, but to me it's like cats. You gotta let them come to me. So Exhuma starts off as like this funny, almost like cop plot where there's two opposing spectral observers, since they both have like different titles. Exhuming a body and an old family business gets involved in like more than one ways. This movie is done with utter precision. I would have loved if it had been released on the main screen, at least where I live. It was just so out there, even to the point where I was like peeking through closed fingers, at least for the first ritual scene, because I've got animal things. But the effects were awesome, and the shooting and sound design all lent together so fluidly. I feel like nobody's gonna talk about like the really small funny moments, like the characters on their skin for protection, and mom drunk dancing and missing her family member dying in the other room, or that extra long coffin for a strong healthy boy like me that still delusionally thinks he's got some growing to do. But there's twists upon conventions I think even fans of Korean horror wouldn't immediately expect, and I think there's a lot more meat to this than even I still understand. Even still, I'm trying to pick apart its imagery and metaphors and research right up until filming. I luckily found an article that answered most of my questions called Exhuming a Historical Myth, again, down bar. This discusses the different jobs the different characters have, because they're not all technically shamans. Geomancy or Pongshu, Iron Stakes, the Fox, and some other historical background about the Imjin War are all covered here. I'm like a little mad at how awesome the kill shots are when they happen. I wanted them all to be on screen. I have one with like a similar beat cooking that I'll have to revise, but so be it. I was so proud. This movie is just so amazing. Someone needs to add this movie's timestamps to doesthedogdie.com, because it's not going to be me, but I really want to watch it again. In the end, it all boils down to like something so human, so innate to all of us. It's land wars. We often think, like, the meaning, it's what we need to do to reclaim our land. But again, there's just so much more to this one that like went right over my head. I think I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this one in case scholars continue to sift through this story. If you wanted me, I don't know if I'd be the best person to do this, but like if anybody wanted me to do a breakdown, a big deep dive of Exhuma, honestly, I'd be so down. This one, so great. This one just kept climbing its way up my list. Number 7, Smile 2. About to embark on a new world tour, global pop sensation Sky begins to experience increasingly terrifyingly inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and pressures of fame, she must face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. The opening admittedly just had me aghast, and it continued to for a 2-hour runtime. I feel like it barely ever lost steam. Somehow an improvement on the first one, especially in the gore department, with definitely not the right amount of blood for Kyle Gallner, but holy shit, what an opening. And also the only acceptable way to kill off the cop character. Then Smile 2 seamlessly introduces us to Sky Riley, who I love even more than Rose as a protagonist, and I loved Rose. She was strong and persevering and relatable to me, so let's just say I was uncomfortable with how I relate to Sky, and I think that's what Finn wants us to feel. I love his slick continued style, dollying all over the damn place fluidly from set to setting. I found the apartment scene scary and the dance scenes just enjoyable to watch. Again, you know I just enjoy a good dance scene in horror. This awesome step up in gore was just incredible. The fact that we got to see so much more both of the character, like who she was, who Sky was during and before, and yes, we're sick. We all saw it coming. We hoped it happened, and thank God it did. The ending. We all know what was going to happen. Part of me hopes that we'll get a Smile 3 because of that awesome cliffhanger ending and like how far it could go from here, but it's Blumhouse and Paramount partnered, so I'm pretty sure we're fucked for this like Chucky TV-esque idea. I ended up reading a lot of articles about this movie for whatever reason. I just like couldn't wait to see where the Smiler goes next, which it's called the Smiler. I literally cannot tell y'all how in love with this creature design I have been and were. The way the Smiler interacts so differently with its prey, the treatment of Rose versus... It was just so fascinating. And like the larger ending scale, I can only say I'll be signed up more for whatever version of possession this is, to say the least. The whites of Naomi Scott's eyes are unlike anything else, and I could watch hours of the Smile Demon just doing its thing. I love how apparent it is in this one. You are forced to watch it. Just a big ol' recommend for this trip fest, even if it's like predictable at times. Missed opportunity for Afterthought by Joji Feet Benny, but I could watch this movie again like easily, and I snuck in my theaters to like see the Smiler so many times. Like last time, I think people misinterpret the ending as being like, if you're mentally ill, you're gonna die miserably. That sounds creative as fuck, and you sound really unintelligent, to be honest. Listen to the story, dude. It's all about how you have to have a support system. People who love you, who would never let you get to the brink. It's like, if you fall off the edge, you immediately have to start working on yourself instead of balling it all up inside. The Smile Demon is just what happens to trauma that festers, is undealt with. That's what I think, anyway. Anyways, I love that this movie about trauma can be so fun. It's so fun. This movie is just so fun. I could probably watch it and fall asleep to it a million times. I had a great time. Watch it. Then rave she must! 6. Nosferatu. In the 1830s, a state agent Thomas travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok. In his absence, his new bride, Ellen, is plagued by horrific visions, an increasing sense of dread, and soon encounters an evil force that's far beyond her control. Yeah, like, I got so excited for this, but okay. Let's talk about why is Nicholas Hoult the final girl, though? No, because he spends his entire movie running around, having sex, crying, and ultimately watching his lover die and living to tell the tale. The foreground and background themes of sexual currency and pregnancy anxiety, climate anxiety with our permanent winter, and leftover pandemic fears were all 1, 2, 3 triple checked in this. Those were runners that I was trying to keep an eye on because of Roe v. Wade and climate change, and also I do believe that climactic action horror subgenre popping off may be our oppressive militarized state in Marvel propaganda, but maybe I'm philosophizing too much. This isn't about this movie. Everybody, including myself, would be remiss not to acknowledge the shadows and the dark's presence in Eggers' work and how he masters it in the first half, seeing the unseen. I think I would have enjoyed Nosferatu being concealed for longer. In an odd way, I think Longlegs wins in that respect for me. I love how he never fails to incorporate striking art history in his work. I noticed this more this time. I noticed his illusions in The Lighthouse, but both are just so rewarding and kind of give this sense of deja vu where, for example, you see Hutter go over the cliff. Your brain knows the German expressionist art is mimicking that, even if you don't, because of Nosferatu's existence. He's just such a genius for that. And Death and the Maiden. I'm so excited for this movie. Acknowledging the great source material, I watched this with my coworker Magnolia, who loves all things vampires. She mentioned that the end death is canonical, which I wish was changed for the thematic impact, but I would not sacrifice that for the final shot. Again, Death and the Maiden, because that was withering. Additionally, I heard there's an actual like pitchfork and fire Nosferatu coup in the end of the novel. Would have loved to see the gang take turns knocking into Bill Skarsgård Pennywise Part 2 style, but that's fine. That's my bag. Speaking of, again, it's been said before, but he absolutely disappeared into that role. Like, how much of that was him practically digitally? I don't know. I don't actually care. Again, it wasn't my favorite creature design, but he was creepy. I'll give you that. Also tell me why he doesn't look like half y'all ugly girls, ugly white boyfriends with his chicken legs and his greasy little mustache. I'm right. Anyways, yeah, speaking of his counterpart, Lily Rose Depp, is your back okay from carrying this movie? Oh my god, she was just the perfect Mary Shelleyan woman for the job. I need me a freak like Ellen. I had a great time with this one. I liked his other movies. This one is 6, but I think it needs to marinate for me to enjoy it fully. So it's like a fine wine or a decrepit corpse. My love for it, it's just gonna age over time. Number 5, Mads. Roman makes a stop at his dealer's place to try a new pill. As he heads off to a party, he sees an injured woman on the side of the road and decides to help her. And the night takes a surreal turn. Oh my god. What? Ellen from Nosferatu's modern epileptic hidden twin sister, Mads. Dude, if there's one straight-to-digital release you need to see this year, it is this one. This was epic, groundbreaking, and I'm still thinking about it. Like, the whole movie's just emblazoned on the back of my retinas. If you don't have Shudder, what are you doing at this point? Why are you following me? But I would literally get Shudder for this movie. I recommend it that heavily. Like, if you're gonna do a Ringu 7-day free trial, legitimately, this has to be at the top of your list. If you like one takes, fast-paced shit, drug horror, just, you're gonna love this one. It reminded me of The Descent in the way that it's suspenseful in the beginning, but it keeps getting ratcheted up to the nth degree about halfway through, and it just keeps going. This guy's inciting commitment to wanting to take this lady to the hospital and do a good thing is admirable. I'm like, bro, at some point you gotta stop and just push her out of the car, save yourself. Oops. Also, I love that this is, again, all in one continuous take. I was really trying to find breaks, though I think it was confirmed by, like, everybody on set that it was just one take, which is just insane. The amount of planning, choreography, and just accuracy. The title card is fantastic. What a lovely little French film. It's so quick. 90 minutes on Shudder. Shudder, I love you, Shudder. Give me money. Let me gospel spread the word. Like, low-key, this made me never want to get high again, because of, like, the shit that happens. It was horrifying. I love the settings. The mansion it starts in is really good. This film is just a time bomb. I love it. It's dialed up. It's so dialed up. I feel so bad for this girlfriend. Her boyfriend's tweaking the entire movie, then she gets shit. Oh my god, there's a cool eye effect in the dark. Halfway through this, it also gets, like, really scary really fast because the fucking French government, or, like, Stranger Things shadow CIA gets involved. This one has a lot of flashing lights, so if you are gonna skip this one, only do it because you have epilepsy, okay? When the blood yassified these people, they move like they're about to turn into a werewolf but can't, and it's crazy. Also, the way its POVs like curled and switch around each other is beautiful. It's quite languid, like a dance. It is like a new take on how scary it could be to not die but be alive in something worse. I'm looking at you handling the undead. Again, this just reminds me a lot of The Rage Virus and Mayhem, which is another underrated watch on Shudder. I know I'm sick and twisted because every time they laugh, I started to laugh too. I don't know if this should be up this high, but I really do think it's unique and that this isn't my recency bias, but you guys let me know if I'm crazy or if you disagree. But forgive me if it's not. Forgive me, it's not me. Forgive me, Julia, for I'm going to eat your fucking face. Oh god, I love that. We're in the top 5. Number 4, Lisa Frankenstein. A misunderstood teenager and a reanimated Victorian corpse embark on a murderous journey together to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. And in my defense, I have none for digging up the grave another time. But you can't give me a movie where a guy's penis is chopped off in slow motion and not have me love it. I really do wish there was even more of an emphasis on the black and white aesthetic. As always, Diablo Cody brightens everything she touches, but this being a directorial debut from Zelda Williams is actually fucking bonkers to me because the cinematography, the acting, the colors, everything cohesively is magic. I loved the animated opening. We didn't need that the entire time, but I think it would have been a better contrast to like the 80s time period and further shown us as the audience like how different Lisa is from her entire town, especially her family. Lisa Frankenstein to me is an all-timer of a character. I love her dramatics, her breaking out of her shell, her singing like only her best friend can hear. I am her friend, her fan forever. I wish I was her friend. Also, she did say trans rights. I do think we brush over her getting roofied within the first 30 minutes like a bit too quickly, but alright. Taffy was a real one for the most part, but lying to Lisa about who you're dating was not homey behavior. Literally, that's her sister. He sucks too, don't get me wrong, but I blame the creature for chopping this pretentious nothing's dick off in an act of true main character dumb. His kill list is honestly quite decent. The almost date rapist nice guy Doug was a good one, and starting off strong with Carla Gugino after vomiting in her cereal. Also in this, Gugino shows that she was born to be in last year's Usher, whether as the Raven or as an Usher child with her uptight Lydia Dietz-esque 80s stepmom. I love her front page awfulness and her constantly bringing up her dad who blew up in Da Nang. It was so funny. I just kill for all of Lisa's wardrobe, creature snapshots included. All the variations the creature goes through is like a wardrobe of its own, and it's a fantastic one, smelly or not. His physical acting was so much fun too. I was so pleasantly surprised. Him rising like Boris Karloff, then hitting the top of the tanning bed. Golden. There's so much to love about this movie, to the house being ransacked by the Hamburglar, to Lisa's support system. I too would have ran away and faked my death with the first conventionally attractive macabre person I met. So honestly, this was the best good for her of the year. This movie is funny and goofy, but lovely and memorable. I had a damn near perfect time with this one. The camp is through the roof. I love nothing more than camp and that, so if possible, it is followed up by the campiest thing on my list yet, and the comfort of all comfort medias, my number 3. This is how you know my top 3 is, fucking killer this year. Chucky Season 3. In Chucky Season 3, the infamous killer doll is back with a vengeance, managing to find his way inside the White House as the new favorite toy of the president's young son. With Chucky threatening to wreak havoc in America's highest office, Jake, Devin, and Lexi must travel to the nation's capital and somehow find a way inside the most secure house to thwart Chucky again before it's too late. My, what a sweet, sweet, sweet song to the TV medium you were. To be succinct, because the script is long as fuck and I'm making a video dedicated to the series or franchise as a whole eventually, I'm really torn up about this. This show for the past couple years has been the ultimate source of comfort for me. One of the all-timer kills, in my opinion, was the Yeah Yeah Yeahs leading to the principal. Season 2 had the best ending song and fourth wall break I can remember in recent memory as well. I've been living in a Chucky bubble ever since I entered horror, and it got perforated. It finally got popped. But enough with my woes. My own propagandist politics were appeased, wrapped up in a murderous bow the size of the North Pole, which is probably why they canceled this. Anyways, whatever. Getting to see Mr. Charles in all his forms was just such a treat. The series really rides on the mechanics and Brad Dourif's vocal performance, and it's nailed on every front. Every death was worth its weight, and there were so much sweetness to every second played. The Chucky series in particular has just been a light at the end of the tunnel for me, both emotionally and as a franchise, not french fries. The French trio has always been compelling to me. Viewers of my channel know I raved about season 1 and how much I love this franchise and believed in its legs, especially with all of its characters just gelling together perfectly. It was this beautiful dance that I wanted to last forever. I love Jake's final boyness, how he's grown. I think that they didn't give Devin enough to work with, but he's genuinely one of my favorites of the series regardless. Their love story is everything young queer me wanted and more. Lexi's arc is so wonderful. I really do hope we receive some sort of closure on the storyline with her and her sister Caroline. There's a part in this show that makes me so emotional, where her love interest, the president's son, Grant Collins, played by someone who I hope cements himself as a screen king, Jackson Kelly. He's great in this. He plays Lexi's favorite song that she mentioned once. They have a duet. It's Seasons Don't Fear the Reaper. It's just so cute. Devin Sawa peaked with this, y'all. I know we loved Sexy Priest, but blitzed wannabe president clone Devin Sawa is my fucking favorite. I was rooting for him. It was so sad to see him go, but what an honor to have seen him whacked so many different unique times. The kills, graphic, gorgeous amidst the White House setting. I feel like it was used well, especially in the culmination of seeing all the White House's ghosts. Obviously, the Tiffany, yeah, she's my Tiffy. The Tiffany sidelines were awesome because Jennifer Tilly could shit in a bucket, and I'd call it art. I do think, alike to Devin, Nico was kind of sidelined this time, but we got to see a lot of Fiona in other ways, acting next to her father. Like, I know he was proud. I'm so proud. I feel so parasocial and weepy and just a weenie. I'm sorry, okay, I will concede. I know father and creator, my fucking god, my guy, my cinematic guiding light, Don Mancini, wants to send our little guy to space. I'm all for that. I think every franchise needs some non-sequitur third location spin-off, and while people incorrectly will regard Seed of Chucky as the unfairly maligned word that rhymes with baggy, sheep of the Chucky family, I can't wait for a new camp space movie to hit our screens. Leprechaun in space, move out. Jason X, get out. Crazy how restrained they were with the Omen references being an evil little guy in the White House, by the way. It's a 5 out of 5 for fucking me. Thank you, Mancini and company. Everybody who has spent 1 second on this series, or a million, thank you so much, because this has mattered so much to me and so many other different people. Thank you. And yet, as perfect as I think that number 3 was, we still have 2 more that I think are just as perfect, if not even more. Number 2, The Substance. Elizabeth Sparkle, renowned for an aerobics show, faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday present as her boss fires her. Amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself. Why did I turn into Dexter? Have you ever wanted to be a better version of yourself? We need more movies that end up being Kafka-esque. I have this beautiful vision of Coralie Farge directing The Fly with, like, the flair of From Beyond seductressness mixed with a monstrousness. I don't know. I need her to do that, or I will. Anyways, what can I say about this substance that hasn't already been substantiated? This is nearly a 2-hour squirm fest. This medical malpractice walking nightmare is another perfectly shot disaster that crescendos in the last 30 minutes, and holy fuck, was this worth all the anticipation and murmurings I heard from second one of the egg until the very last breath she takes. The plot and its beats are extremely memorable, with this feeling of being a witness to a train crash you know will end in disaster for Elizabeth, and yet you can't help but wash. A lot like the inciting car crash, a lot like how we grind ourselves down for success. Don't think I didn't also manage to acknowledge that metaphor. I'm clearly doing this, so yeah. The colors are to die for, and the evolution of the apartment matching and the deterioration of Elizabeth undergoes as the substance overtakes her is just fantastic. The practical effects, I'm squealing like a little kid, both in disgust and excitement. It's sublime. Whether it may not be you, or maybe you don't feel this way, I think this movie was irrevocably for the girlies. That being said, women, men, and non-binary friends, I'm sure will even indulge in this. It's something especially people involved in socialite spheres crave, this elusive substance, the skin deep and otherwise, because women can't have their cake and eat it too, can't revel in their successes without being shallow or being reminded that their clock is ticking and the next it girl is just waiting for one slip up to take their place. This movie says, most of the time, that person is you. You can be your own worst enemy if you choose to go down that path. Even beyond that, we've all had a moment where we see ourselves as Sue, or, well, you know who I'm talking about. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to last minute cancel on plans because I didn't feel attractive enough to be there, or masculine enough, or me enough. As funny as this movie is heartbreaking and yell out loud terrifying, there is a wonderful shock fest that I put on only at the cuntiest of Halloween parties. This is real hot girl shit, regurgitating a boob from your mouth, not the mouth on your face, on your other face, just another one hanging out right on your shoulder. All the acting was on point, fan-fucking-tastic. Obviously, Demi Moore deserves her accolades, but I really do think Margaret Qualley's one to watch out for as well. The Foley, popping. Again, I cannot emphasize the look of this movie. It is delicious as it is sickening. Plus, the literal portrait of Dorian Sparkle. Come on! Again, give me more classics reimagined modernly as horror flicks. This was some Invisible Man 2020 Galaxy Brain level of inclusion. There's just so many reads, even though this movie is blaringly obvious, and that's what I love about it. It speaks for itself, and what speaks for is so necessary to hear. I have no reservations or critiques. I think this movie was stunning. I cannot wait to watch and once again experience The Substance. The way that we've got to my number 1 pick, and I am scared because people don't think this is a horror movie, and I literally think they're crazy, but number 1, I saw the TV glow. A classmate introduces teenage Owen to a mysterious late-night TV show, a vision of a supernatural world beneath their own. In the pale glow of the television, Owen's view of reality begins to crack. Babe, come home, the kettle's literally whistling. Hello, pick it up. Candle Cove called and she wants her fucking scalp back. The bleacher scene, gorgeous. The actors split into dualities and foils of the pink opaque girls. The lore of a show becoming your reality. Owen working at a movie theater at the end of the day. I just think my disassociation brought to this movie, and it helped it. I am done denying myself. This movie is about not letting sleeping dogs lie. Wake the dogs up! Wake up the dogs! My heart's still reaching stubborn and If this movie didn't scare you, I wish I had your life. Maybe it isn't to you, but I guarantee anybody who's ever been that kid in a family knows this is horrifying, but also it absolutely is horror. To all those still having that debate, the ice cream man being buried alive, choking on Pepto-Bismol bile, general parent trauma, Mr. Melancholy is a truly terrifying force. The fact that Maddie and Owen set a perfectly good, if not vintage TV on fire in the middle of the woods, that's horror. I wonder if there's been a week that went by that I didn't think about this movie since I've seen it. I'm literally raving right now. I like the idea of asking someone, do you see the TV glow? Or referring to transness as that. It makes it seem so magical. Some viewed nostalgia as a pitfall, but I consider this the autistic guide to communication. Void High being the name of the high school is just so perfect for the story. The trans colors subtly being in every shot of Owen feeling more and more like herself. The multicolored inflatable planetarium, the pink opaque, and the vending machine lights, and the shirt that she wears when she rekindles things with Maddie. The TV static inside her chest and above her head when she falls asleep, safe next to her best friend, the overbearing parent friend, the out-of-their-kid's-life friend, Fred Durst being terrifying and ominous in, like, a total of 1 and, like, 5 shots post-Limp Bizkit. This movie means so much to me. I was called a late bloomer for coming out in high school. The time when adults tell teenagers they will be the most confused. I am not a late bloomer. No one has bloomed too late. There is still time. There will always be time. It is easier to be not yourself. It is easier to be dishonest. I also think that the metaphor usage of the inhaler is extremely potent. How not being able who they really are is literally killing them. The longer they shelve their reality, the longer Isabel lives in their grave, unable to breathe under the weight of her silence in her dirt. Isn't that a show for girls? I remember the first time my dad walked in on me watching Glee. 2 girls kissing and I couldn't get off the screen fast enough. He asked me something along the lines of, isn't that show for queers? And from then on until I came out, or rather I was told I was gay and I just didn't hide it, I spent watching Girls Like Girls by Hayley Kiyoko, panicking if I heard a footstep, having an extremely online presence where I could be obnoxiously gay, but extremely private in my personal everyday life. My favorite scene of this is probably Owen walking through the hallways, her head down and the doodles from Maddie decorating the walls. Honestly, I'll probably get a tattoo of one of these someday, or the pink opaque symbol. One day I'll have a projector wall thing and I can just pause the movie and really look at it like a museum. One of the best songs ever released on a horror soundtrack, like, I love Stubborn and Unkissed by Caroline Polachek so much. It was one of my most listened to songs of last year. It's crescendoing and melancholic and profound while they're walking to the darkroom in one take, red bathing everything, to just pick up a cassette that Maddie lovingly makes for Owen every fucking week. Then after that, how Justice seamlessly turns to Spike the camera, because this is trans stories. These are trans stories. Our audience's stories. I mean, even the fucking moon guys are hermaphroditic, Marco and Polo. How we used to have to watch things out of order and try and figure things out. In another universe, this is a good companion piece to Y2K. Also, on the second viewing, I, just realized Snail Mail was in this. Hello! How us queer folk can sniff each other out in a crowd. I love Justice so much in this. Justice's voice does not really sound like this. He doesn't act like this at all in his interviews. I've been here for a long time. I love him. I like girls. Just making sure. What about you? Do you like girls? I don't know. Boys? I think I like TV shows. When I think about that stuff, it feels like someone took a shovel and dug out all my insides. And I know there's nothing in there, but I'm still too nervous to open myself up and check. I know there's something wrong with me. My parents know it too. Do you ever feel like that? This scene in the theaters made me feel like I was being ripped in half. knowing a town or place will kill you if you stay in it, that one extremely homoerotic best friendship in high school, this is one that you either get or you don't. And as for me, I felt like I got it a little too much, as you can tell by my long-winded musings. I felt like wounded in the theater, and walking home I was raw, on display. Somehow I was made of glass, and every stranger on the street could see right through me. That feeling was ugly and beautiful and all too familiar, and I wanted to sit with it. So good fucking job, Jane. But everybody who does get this, who's felt this way, I fucking see you. There will always be more time. I wish this could have been their Bonnie and Clyde escape to small town and don't look back from the movie. But it's a forewarning, or a grim reality. Not only to the closeted folk, but those that force their children into the closet. Girl, if I had their budget, I'd be commissioning all my favorite queer artists too. And if you weren't, you are boring or a liar. Just the narration and the header explanations, and how when you shake up memories and fiction in your head, especially if you cling hard enough to comfort to try and make something of your trauma. We all need to make it to our season 6 and a movie. Jane's directorial eye is just chef's fucking kiss. The film ends on the bleakest note. I'd like to believe that with the title being I Saw the TV Glow and the end being what Owen saw in herself, this is telling the audience to expose ourselves to our loved ones when we feel safe. To anyone out there under the trans, non-binary, genderqueer umbrella, not only is there still time, again, there always will be time. Holy shit. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, my guys. In terms of wrapping this up, I would say that what genuinely scared me the most this year would be Alien Romulus in terms of like actual full body physical terror. The Substance disgusted me with its medical shit, and then I Saw the TV Glow was just a mental and psychological side of terror that I was not ready for. This year, I'm really excited for Companion and the Fear Street Project. I was excited for Until Dawn until I saw the trailer, and it's not at all like the video game. I'm scared, but you know, 2024, it was surprisingly a banger year of horror, so if we need 2025 to be a cool down year, that's alright for me. Again, thank you so much for watching. I can't believe I got to the end of this. You'll probably have seen me jump around in different outfits and re-recording things. You know, thank you for listening. I have a sign off. What is it? Keep creeping, keep caring, keep creating, and keep caring for each other. That's what it is. Yeah. Keep doing that. Take care of yourself. Bye.